You can overcome that, but only through the Spirit, only through living in the Spirit, living by the Spirit, walking in the Spirit. That's how you walk in the Spirit. You make the choice to walk in the Spirit. And again, I want to say it because I don't know if any of you are the same as me, how you thought about it or anything, but I want to make this very clear. God ain't going to do it to you. God ain't going to make it happen. You can't come up here and pray and say, God, make me walk in the Spirit. I want to walk in the Spirit. God's going to say, well, then go ahead. Do it. It's your choice. It's your decision. And the way you do it is by letting the Spirit lead you in every situation, in every circumstance, in your actions, in your reactions, in your interactions with other people. Let the Spirit be the lead. Because I'm going to tell you, even though you may bring the flesh under subjection a little bit in some situations and circumstances, that flesh doesn't want to be like all this description of the fruit of the Spirit. And it will get out of hand, and it will get out of control. And it will do things. It will cause you to say things. It will cause you to act in ways that are not becoming to a Christian. But if we can get all this, then we can overcome that flesh. And since, this has been happening so much here, everybody's been going through stuff. I mean, for how long now? Everybody's been going through stuff. And it gets you down. And it wears on you. And you worry. And you get concerned. And it bothers you. And it saddens you. And when all that happens, it affects you spiritually. It affects your relationship with God. It affects your connection with God. It affects what you get. It affects how God can deal with you. It affects what you're able to receive. And that's the main thing that I wanted to get at. It doesn't have to be that way. We can be spiritual powerhouses in any situation, in any circumstance, if we decide to be, if we decide to do so, if we make that choice. Again, it ain't going to be easy. It is a warfare. It is a battle. Go and read what Paul wrote all about. You probably all know the scriptures. How he has to die daily. How he sees that there is a war. How he sees what's going on within him. And he has to conquer that flesh. But he realizes, who shall deliver me from this? There's only one that can do it. You have to be led by the Spirit. Controlled by the Spirit. The decisions have to be made by the Spirit. And if we could do that, we don't have to be miserable. We don't have to be down. We don't have to be suffer anxiety and depression and all these things. We are children of God. We should not deal with these things. We should not have these things in our life. As children of God, and back to the thing I've been asking a lot lately, if God dwells in us, how can you be miserable? How can you be down? How can you suffer anxiety? How can you do all those, be depressed? And all that? How can that happen if the Spirit of God indwells you? There's only one way. You chose it. You decided that's how you're going to be. You may not have sat down and said, this is how I'm going to be, and actually made that choice. But by not choosing to let the Spirit have control, by not choosing to hear the voice of the Spirit and follow where He leads and trust God and be all these things, by not doing that, you have chosen that path. It is your choice. It is up to you. And I'm telling you, if you listen to what He said, it is so true. If you walk in the Spirit, if you live in the Spirit, if you are directed by the Spirit, if you are guided by the Spirit, you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. You will not do what the flesh wants to do. He said you will not, and you won't if you're just following the Spirit, listening to the Spirit, letting the Spirit lead you. The flesh wants to be miserable. The flesh wants to be down. The flesh wants to be depressed. And a lot of us let the flesh have its way. But we don't have to. If we walk in the Spirit, we won't let the flesh have its way. That's what He said. He said, they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with its affections and with its lust. If we are Christ and we're obedient to the Spirit, walking in the Spirit, following the Spirit, being guided by the Spirit, if we are Christ and we're doing all those things, then the flesh is crucified. The flesh is put down. The flesh has no more control. The flesh doesn't get to call the shots anymore. The Spirit does. And he says, they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with its affections, its wants, its lusts, its desires. I want to jump over to Romans for just a minute. Romans chapter 6. Romans chapter 6, verse 11. Likewise, reckon ye also yourselves to be dead indeed unto sin, but alive unto God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, that ye should obey it in the lust thereof. And you can go on, but here's what I wanted to get. What he says is, likewise, reckon ye also yourselves to be dead indeed unto sin. That's the flesh. The flesh is filled with sin, the Adam nature. And he said, reckon yourselves. Do you know what that word reckon means? It means to make that choice, make that decision. It's an affirmative. If Carla made a cake or some cookies or something like that, and I'm sitting in the chair and there, and she goes out to the kitchen and she says, you only bring me a piece of cake, and I say, I reckon so. I made a choice and a decision. That's in the affirmative. What he's saying here is reckon yourselves to be dead. Affirm yourselves to be dead unto sin, the flesh, the Adam nature, the desire. I wanted to read that because, again, I want you to understand this is a choice. This is a decision. For so very long, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm the odd one out, but for so very long I believe that the church has thought God is just going to do these things to us. God is just going to make these things happen. If you come to church enough, and if you pray enough, then God's just going to make you be like this. He ain't. It's up to you. It's your. That's with everything of God. Everything. All the things of God are a choice and a decision. That's why he said, I set before you a choice. I set before you a blessing and a cursing. I set before you two roads. You choose. It's up to you. God will not do it. He will make it available. He will give you everything you need to get there. He will be behind you. He will back you. He will be your cheerleader. He will root you on. He will do whatever is necessary for you to carry it out. But it's your choice. You've got to decide to do it. If you want to be that kind of a Christian, if you want to walk in the Spirit, if you want to be a spiritual Christian, if you want to have that kind of victory and that kind of success over the flesh, this is how you do it. You decide, I'm going to do it. I'm going to let the Spirit guide me, lead me, teach me, instruct me, strengthen me. Everything that he does, you've got to decide you're going to let him do that. When that problem arises, at that moment, you're going to feel the flesh rise up. When it's a bad thing, and I use the example if I'm losing my job. When that first happened, the first thing that's going to happen is my flesh is going to jump up and it's going to say, man, what are you going to do now? You are so old, nobody else is ever going to hire you. You're only going to get unemployment for however many weeks. Then what are you going to do? Then you're going to be in trouble. That's what the flesh will do. But at that moment, when I hear that, you're going to lose your job, we don't need you anymore, or whatever, what I should do is go to God. At that moment, before the flesh has a chance to rise up, go to God and say, God, you know the situation. You know the circumstance. You promised me that you would be here. You promised me you'd never leave me. You never forsake me. You promised me whatever I walk through, you're always going to be there. I'm going to take you up on it. And go in that. That's what we have to do. But we don't. We let that flesh jump up and run 50 miles an hour for a week, and then we decide to go to God. He's already built up so much stuff in you, you don't know how to get rid of it by then. We'll let him run all over us and make us miserable. And even then, we'll come to church and we'll request prayer about it, and we go away still miserable. We don't have to. We don't have to live like that. We should not live like that. Children of God should not be living the way they are living. We should be the most joyous, the happiest. We should have a spring in our step. We should have a whistle on our lip. We should be showing the world what it is to be a child of God. It is joy. It is peace. It is love. It is all those things that I read to you. But that's not what we are. As long as everything's fine, we are. As long as it's good and I don't have a problem and I don't have a worry and all that, then we are. But as soon as anything comes along and the flesh pops up, we let him run with it. You have control. It's up to you. You can put a stop to it by just yielding to the Spirit, by just yielding to God. It goes on and says, they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and love. If we live in the Spirit, there's only one way you can live. In the Spirit. Those who do not have the Spirit of God are dead. They are dead in trespasses and sin. They are dead. So if you are born again, you live in the Spirit. And listen to what he says here. If we live in the Spirit, which if you are a child of God you do, let us also walk in the Spirit. If you are a child of God, he said, walk in the Spirit. If you live in it, I mean you're a child of God, walk in it. That's what we should be doing. That should be our goal. So, what is it to walk in the Spirit? It's to let the Spirit guide you, lead you, teach you, have control. It's to live your life under spiritual control. It's to live your life guided by the Spirit. It's to live your life taught by the Spirit. That's what it is. And again, what really needs to be understood is it's up to you. It's up to you. It's not like when you're a kid in school and you were being bad. They don't do it anymore, they're not allowed. But when I was a kid in school being bad, that teacher would slam me in the chair and say, now you listen and make me listen. The Spirit won't do that to you. It's your choice. It's your decision. That's what it is to walk in the Spirit. And if we walk in the Spirit, we defeat the flesh. And if we defeat the flesh, we get that fruit of the Spirit. And we can have joy, peace, love, comfort. All the good things can be ours regardless of anything else that's going on. And I want to go back to what I started with. I want to ask you again, what are you after? It kind of comes back to this morning. What are you after? Are you after pleasing this and getting stuff and all those things? Or are you after the Spirit? Every child of God, the desire should be to be after the Spirit. They that are after the flesh mind the things of the flesh. If most of your energy and your concerns and your time and all this stuff is directed at things that pertain to this life, you're not walking after the Spirit. To walk after the Spirit means we go after. We mind the things of the Spirit. That's what Paul said. They that are after the flesh mind the things of the flesh. And the things of the flesh are all material. They're, again, what the flesh wants, what the flesh does. The flesh wants all these things that steal the good things of God from you. That's what the flesh wants. And that's what the flesh will get unless you put a stop to it. There's good Christian people in here, strong Christian people in here. I know there is. People that believe God, people that trust God, people that have served God for a long time. I know there is. But probably every one of us in here has let the flesh get a hold of us from time to time.
Oh, yes. Amen.
And there's only one way that can happen. When we let it happen. I know I say this a lot, and I've been saying it a whole lot for a while, but God is really making some things clear to me. Our problems are made by us. Do you understand that? It's not the devil. When you come in here next week, don't tell me the devil did this to you and the devil did that to you, because he didn't. He can't unless you let him. Our problems are created by us. That's who our fight is with. That's who our battle is with. We war against ourselves. We war against the flesh. The devil hardly ever has to do anything but sit back and laugh. Because we're a bunch of miserable Christians, and we've made ourselves that way. We are not to be this way. It should not be this way. And again, I really believe from the bottom of my heart, God wants somebody to finally understand. You can be as happy as you want to be. You can be as joyous as you want to be. You can be as filled with the Spirit as you want to be. You can walk over every situation. You can walk over every circumstance. You can have all those good things. Somebody needs to get a hold of it and finally understand it. The Christians for so long have not, but we need to get it, and God wants somebody to get it. I have given you the choice. Take it. It's almost like He begs us to take the good stuff, and we choose to take the bad stuff. He'll lay all these good things out for us and pleads with us to come and receive them, and we turn around and walk right into the face of the bad stuff. That's what we do. It's time to quit doing that. I have a God who can enable me to overcome anything. I have a God who can enable me to walk above anything. I have a God who can enable me to walk through anything. And yet, I let the flesh, the weak worm flesh, dust, dirt, I let it call the shots. How dumb is that? It's not too intelligent, but that's what we do. If we walk in the Spirit, the flesh loses. The flesh is put down. The flesh is crucified. We are victorious. And I'm going to say this again, because I can't get it off my mind. We should be up here. We should be up here regardless of what's going on, regardless of situation, regardless of circumstance, regardless of anything else. As a child of God, a born-again child of God, Jesus came and shed His blood and went through everything He went through to make you that. And then God Himself, in the form of the Holy Ghost, moved into you. We should be up here. And we let situation and circumstance and everything destroy us and bring us down and rob us of our joy and rob us of our peace and take away the good things that Jesus died to give us. We let that happen. We let that happen. There's nobody else to blame. If I'm miserable, it's my fault. If I'm depressed, it's my fault. If I have anxiety, it's my fault. It's not God's fault. It's not the devil's fault. The devil can't do that to me because I'm a child of God. But I can. And we do. It's a choice. So there you have it. If you walk in the Spirit, you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. That's what it means. That's what God has shown me that it means to walk in the Spirit. It just means to live your life controlled by the Spirit. Live in the Spirit. It's not, don't get the idea, maybe I shouldn't even go here, but don't get the idea that it means you got to be acting silly or crazy or something. Every time some people hear the word Spirit, they think it's crazy stuff. But it's just being guided by the Spirit, led by the Spirit, controlled by the Spirit, taught by the Spirit, given the strength to overcome by the Spirit. If you let the Spirit lead you, He'll give you the strength to overcome the flesh. That's all it means to walk in the Spirit. And there are many other things, I'm sure, that for so long we read and we never stop and think about. And we wait for God to do something. When God says you do it, it's a choice you make. It's a decision you make. And you remember that in all your circumstances and situations, and all of the things that you read in here that God offers. You remember that. It's always a choice. I don't